Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with, what was that loud noise? Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce. How you doing, man?
Hey, David. That must have been my chair that did that. I'm kind of still shifting and moving a little bit. I'll try and stay still. I was pretty calm for most of the game. Never in doubt, really, was it?
No, it wasn't, because how many times did we see this last year where the Oilers are they're way down and they come back? You almost expect it now, and you know it's not that surprising. You would expect it because they have this unbelievable talent on the team in McDavid and Draisaitl in their absolute prime. And now they've surrounded it, Bruce, with some really good players. This is a fine hockey team. And we saw it tonight in their 5-3 victory over the Canucks. The Canucks got the first 3 goals, and the Oilers stormed back and got the next 5. And by the third period, the game wasn't that close. The Oilers were pretty dominant in the third period. The Canucks are pretty dominant in the first, of course. So I think overall, the shots were 36-25 for Vancouver, but when it came to the most dangerous shots, the Oilers had a slight edge. They had, it was 18-15 for grade A shots in Edmonton's favor. And grade A shots have, on average, about 25% chance of going in. And when you break out from those grade A shots, the 5 alarm shots, the teams had 10 each. And those shots have about a 30% plus chance of going in. So on the most dangerous chances, the teams were equal, and the Oilers just had better finishing and slightly better goaltending. So, Bruce, we're going to do our 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers podcast. So let's start it off with your first good thing.
Okay, we're going to do 2 good things each because of the importance of the win. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to go. I was going to have a strong focus on special teams here tonight, but because they were the difference in this game. Vancouver had a man advantage for 12 minutes and 15 seconds and scored once and allowed 1. Edmonton had the man advantage for 1 minute and 49 seconds and scored 3 times. And I mean, 1 was an empty netter, but still. So I'll start with the penalty kills, since they seem to be out there an awful lot, and they needed to be good with Edmonton players beating a steady path to the penalty box. McDavid cross-checking, Puljujarvi holding, Nurse interference, Nugent Hopkins tripping, Team too many men, McDavid tripping, Draisaitl interference, Kane interference on goalie. 8 penalties, all solo penalties in that game on the Oilers, and they got away with 1 or 2, one in particular, which I think you'll mention. But so they kept having to kill the penalties, and the penalty killing was not perfect by any means. They had trouble at times getting hold of the puck and clearing the zone okay, and sometimes clearing it far enough to make a decent line change. They got caught a couple of times on the line changes. But they did allow in those, 12 minutes, 11 shots for Vancouver on the power play. But I'll make the point that Jack Campbell was one of the penalty killers, and I thought he had a pretty strong showing, especially on the PK. He had a lot of work to do, and he cleaned it up for the most part. The one he was beaten on was a ridiculously easy backdoor tap in that you blame on the goalie basically never. And otherwise, he slammed the door hard. And to the penalty kills credit, they did respond with 1 shot on goal of their own, but it was a devastating one-timer by Darnell Nurse that tied the game 3-3 in the last minute of the second period. And if there's goals that are going to kill a team, it's a goal against in the last minute of a period, especially a tying goal where they've had the lead, and any shorthanded goal. When you combine all of them on one play where Nurse started it with a very good defensive stick in his own zone. He chipped it to Draisaitl, and then he just jumped up and into the rush. And I think it was even a 3-on-1. But Leon held the puck for the right time and simply fed it across ice, and Nurse slammed it home. And that was one of the key turning points in this game. I thought when they got it to 3-3, I thought Vancouver was on the back foot for much of the third period. And I thought the penalty kill still had a couple more penalties to kill off. Although thankfully the two they had in the third period were both short ones, because Vancouver followed by taking a kind of undisciplined penalty of their own on each of those power plays. Vancouver took a high sticking penalty, so that helped the shorthanded unit. But still, that unit came through with a big game, splitting the goals 1-1 when facing 8 shorthanded situations. So nice job. Penalty kill, or certainly nice results penalty kill. Like I say, I think the process, this is one of those games the coaches are going to find plenty in the game film
Well,
of
yeah.
process issues, things that weren't quite done right. I suspect there will be a few specially designed drills for cutting out cross ice passes and so on. But in the end, I got the job done, so that's one of my good things.
18 grade A shots for the Oilers and 15 for the Canucks. Like, that's a lot of grade A shots in a game. That late penalty was some good hustle by Derek Ryan, fighting up the ice, and he eventually got a shot off there. Yeah, and the shorthanded goal by Nurse. He had been having kind of a rough game up until then, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But he really redeemed himself in that moment. But Draisaitl's pass was just such a fantastic pass. Just this stabbing it across the ice under the guy's stick, right along the ice and right to Nurse. Just set him up beautifully. Draisaitl's passing is just a thing of beauty, and he had a great game. I thought the Oilers. My first good thing, Bruce. I thought the Oilers' best player on the night was Zach Hyman, and he was the only Oiler in a lot of ways who came out to really play in the first period, and he made the first good play of, like, the Oilers were kind of comatose at the start of the game, and the first good play of the game was him on the penalty kill, and he kind of dove for the puck and swiped that out of their zone. It was the first hustle play. It was the first time the Oilers actually got something that went their way in the game. They got a little bit of momentum out of that. A moment later, he stole the puck in the offensive zone, and he goes down and he gets the first grade A shot of the season on net. And the play then progressed with him passing the puck to Puljujärvi in the slot for what would have been a very nice goal. I was hoping so much that Puljujärvi would score. It was a tough game for Puljujärvi. Didn't get a lot of ice time, just 12, a little over 12 minutes, maybe close to 13 minutes, because there were so many penalties for both teams, and there's so much special teams play, and so he didn't get on the ice a lot, but he came close to scoring there off this fantastic feat from Hyman.
He did pound it on net. He just couldn't get it upstairs, and it was a very good save by Thatcher Demko.
Yeah. So Hyman then, in the second period, he was part of that tabletop hockey goal on the power play, which was one of the finest goals I've ever seen on a power play. I mean, Nuge down to Hyman. Then we see the famous Hyman maneuver where he's at the side of the net and he whips it out front. Like he's constantly doing that, often between his legs, to Draisaitl in the slot, who whips it over to McDavid. And the passing play was probably like a second, maybe 2 seconds. It was so fast, just bang, bang, bang. And it had that tabletop hockey quality where if you play that game, like the whole idea of that game is to, the winger goes down and puts the puck in the middle for the center, and you slam it home with the center. That's how you score most of your goals in tabletop hockey. That's exactly what that was. That kind of rapid, dangerous passing, and finally the McDavid slamming home the goal. Then on the fourth goal, Hyman wins the puck in his own zone, and he battles it all the way up the ice,
Yeah.
takes it to the middle of the ice, and sets up McDavid, who moves into the slot for two 5-alarm shots and puts in the second one. He was tremendous, Zach Hyman, and tremendous all last year. He's so far at least, what is it, a 7-year contract? So he's in the second year of his 7-year contract, but so far he's been just great. He's been a great Edmonton Oiler, and he's a joy to watch. His effort is there almost every single night, and there was great results for him as well tonight.
Yeah, well, he chipped in 5 minutes and 20 seconds on the penalty kill.
Yeah.
Hyman did, and but he made. He was part of that great power play goal. He was big part of the game winner, as you say, where he battled the puck up the ice. He dished it off to McDavid. McDavid touched it back to him, and again he drove it deeper into the zone, and then fed McDavid in the slot took 2 shots for him to bury it with 5 minutes to go, and the game still tied 3-3. So he really did contribute on all 3 game states, Hyman, and he was one of the few, it seemed, of the star players who stayed out of the penalty box himself. So he was at least available to kill all of these penalties.
Yeah, even Nugent got a penalty.
Yeah, and his stat line doesn't look like much. 2 shots, 1 hit, a couple of block shots. That's nice. But he did a lot of his work where it wasn't sort of directly going toward goal, but he was either controlling it along the boards, or he tying it up along the boards, or digging it out for someone else to do something with it. And I agree that he had a very strong game, even as he was not recognized as one of the game stars, which went to McDavid, Draisaitl, and Campbell. And pretty good case can be made for those guys as well.
Yeah, you could. I think I would have had Hyman. I thought he was the best player for the Oilers. McDavid's game was very effective in the end, but he had a pretty slow start. And he didn't really ever hit his top gear in that game. Still got 3 goals, so there you go. He did, and Hyman did,
and he still nearly dangled through everybody a couple of times. Man, oh man!
Yeah,
there's a couple of plays where he can control the puck in traffic. That's just amazing to watch.
2 assists for Hyman, so that was the one stat that does stand out. Bruce, what is your you're going to go with the power play, as you mentioned, for your second thing. Sorry, I described one of the power play goals already,
that's
but
fine.
Go ahead.
You described the best one, but that's all right.
Yeah, sorry.
We'll let that go. The power play was just brutally efficient. I mean, Vancouver took a penalty at 3:54, and the Oilers scored at 4:12. And it was a little bit of a lucky goal. McDavid drove the puck into the goal crease area, and there was a huge pileup in front, and there's 3 or 4 guys whacking away at it. I'm not sure anybody ever got a shot. And then the puck went into the corner, and a centering pass came through the slot, and it kind of just bounced over to the side where Draisaitl was, and he just pounded it in. But that was to sort of follow up on the chaos that they'd already created earlier in the power play. 18 seconds it took him to score that time. The second power play goal, it took him, 13:55 was the penalty, 14:01 was the goal, 6 seconds, and that was Leon wins the draw, Connor chips it back to the point, Barry finds Nugent Hopkins on the wing, and these are all sort of road plays to set it up, and then from Nugent Hopkins it goes Hyman, Draisaitl, McDavid to net, as you described. And one of the best ways to appreciate that goal, if you are one who, like me, who records the games and likes to look at them again, listen to it. Listen to the puck just go click, 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 click. And it says 4 clicks faster than I can even say the word click, apparently. And it was in the net. I'd say under a second for the 3 passes from Nugent Hopkins' stick to Hyman's to Draisaitl's. And Leon, I mean, he's got eyes in his ears to see McDavid, because he was looking this way and McDavid was over there, and he put it right on his tape. Just no hesitation, one touch pass over, bam. And that was beautiful to watch. And then the third period, they had a 15-second. This was their one failed power play on the night. They went 3 for 4, and it was a 15-second power play because they'd taken a penalty, and Vancouver took one 15 seconds later. And even in that time, they came very, very close. Leon this time made a great backhand feed to Vander Kane at the edge of the crease, and Demko made what I thought was his best save of the entire game to at least get one recorded successful kill for Vancouver. And then finally at the end of the game, it was Edmonton that was on the power play when the goalie was out, and Vancouver pulled him to make it 5-on-5. And of course, the Oilers made fairly short work of that, but that was actually the longest power play time that they had in the entire game. It took them to score in the empty net, but the power play, 3 for 4 on the night, 5 shots on net, 3 of them went in the net, and they were all basically open net, slam it into the open net from close range, with the last one there literally being no goalie. But and the other two, the goalie was out of the play because of the movement of the puck. So fantastic work by that special unit.
All right. My second good thing is going to be it's going to be Jack Campbell. Although he did let in, I didn't like the JT Miller goal. I thought he should have had that.
Yep.
It was from far enough out. We've seen enough of these shots from the dot. NHL goalies make that save all the time, and those shots go in about 10% of the time, if that. Yep. And Miller made a nice shot, but Campbell should have had that one. Mm-hmm. So and maybe the first goal, Elias Peterson on the Holloway turnover. Maybe he should have had that, maybe, but I didn't dock him on that one. I thought that was a really tough play because there's it's a 2-on-1, and he's got to be cognizant of the guy coming down from the slot, as did Ryan Murray, who's trying to make the play. But other than that, Campbell was fantastic. He just made big save, and you mentioned his work on the PK, Bruce. He just made big save after big save, like a number of kind of break-in, breakaway, one-timer shots. Peterson ramming the puck at net on one-timer shots. Kuzmenko breakaway. Pearson breaking in hard. Miller breakaway. Then he thwarts a potential breakaway in the third by coming out to play the puck. In the third, the Canucks were pretty much spent, and they didn't have a lot going on. But his goaltending was a huge difference in that game. And I'm just going to bump up his grade to an 8 here. I got him as a 7, but I just talking about it now, even though that was a great game, because that was still a great game, because he shut them down when he needed to shut them down, and he got his team back in the game because of it. So I'm gonna just have a little bit of amnesia on that bad goal that he let.
I'd make the case that on that second goal was the time they needed to shut him down. When they made it 2-0 so quick after the first one, which was a horrendous rookie mistake by Dylan Holloway on his first regular season shift in the NHL, which couldn't have gone a lot more worse than it did.
Poor kid.
And that basically hung everybody out to dry. But then the Miller goal coming so quickly thereafter, you'd really like a save there.
You sure would,
as you say, he did slam the door, and especially in a similar situation, like he had no chance on the Kuzmenko, who had a really good game, goal that made it 3-0. But right off the subsequent face-off, again, a situation where you got to have a save, and this time he did deliver. It was right off the face-off. Vancouver won the draw. Bam, breakaway. Like, hello, defense, wake the hell up.
Yeah.
And JT Miller, only that guy, it's led Vancouver in scoring, I think, 2 of the last 3 years. And Campbell got the better of him on that. And then he just built a wall on the net for the rest of the night. And there was a couple of plays where we were kind of discussing, was that a grade A shot or not? Where the Vancouver moved the puck around, they got one-timers. and Campbell was already there and waiting for the shot when they let it go, and his
Yeah.
movement across the crease on, anticipating and getting over and being, well positioned to, because they didn't miss with those one timers. At least they missed a couple, but there was a couple where they hammered them on goal and inside the near side post, and Campbell was over there and waiting. So generally positive on Campbell for sure. A lot of good saves and not an easy night's work. There was a lot of traffic around Oilers net, and a lot of times where his defenders were getting beat for deflections or on passes near the net. So
Horvat missed that one timer. I was so glad that he missed that one because that was a wide open shot. But the one that sticks out in my mind on his positioning, Bruce, was can't remember what period it was, but Elias Peterson got a one timer, and it was Campbell was so fast in getting over and read that so well that you thought, oh, is that a, as you say, was that a grade A shot at all, because
yeah.
he was in position to stop it. But that shot by Peterson is probably going to go in 1/3 of the time. It was
Hmm.
a fantastic shot. He just blistered it right away at net on the power play on a one timer from kind of just above the dot. And that we know from experience now, from years of watching, that kind of shot, whoever can take them, if they can get them off well, those shots go in 30% of the time plus. Draisaitl hits them in at about 35% of the time.
Hmm.
And yeah, great save by Jack Campbell. He's good with the puck. He makes good decisions. So good first impression for him. And I'm also bumping up. I'm up to the 8 because as a first game Oiler, you have to give players the benefit of the doubt. And I gave Holloway a 4 for instance in this game, which was a little bit charitable because he did make a couple good plays after that
Hmm.
mistake. He didn't get on the ice much to do things, which was a little bit disappointing. I thought they maybe reined him in a little too fast there, although that was a pretty rough mistake on
Did
your.
have 4 hits and 2 shots in his 8 minutes,
There you go.
but 2 giveaways, and one of them was pretty brutal. That was
Whew.
very brutal,
Yeah.
right
Are
inside his
we
own line.
okay? Bad things, Bruce.
Yeah, mine's kind of an amalgam of. I mean, it's a bad start to the game, and the bad defensive zone coverage that was part of that bad start, where it seemed like Vancouver had the puck on a string, and Edmonton was a day late and a dollar short, uh, getting in the lanes, getting sticks in the lanes, or players in the lanes, and it just seemed like Vancouver was taking it to Edmonton pretty hard. And I would say it's possible. My wife watching the game said, that ceremony they had for Ben Stelter at the beginning, she thought that would be something that would have a bigger effect on the Oilers than it would on the Canucks. And then 5 minutes that followed, it certainly seemed that she was spot on in that observation. Uh, but we're only judging on what we see in the play, and I mean, they just weren't quite ready to roll off the start. And I thought the D-men had a pretty rough night. Evan Bouchard, I thought he was brutal for about half the game, and then he
Yeah.
was pretty good after that.
Yeah.
And the pairing of Tyson Barrie with
Kulak.
Brett Kulak, well, when they were on the ice, which was for about 14 minutes, well, actually 11 minutes for Kulak, and the Oilers were outshot 12-1
Whew.
when they were out there. They were really, they were playing chase with the puck in their own end zone to the point where they never had it enough to make anything happen going the other way. So, Barry did have some involvement in the power play, and Kulak had some in the penalty kill, but I thought that pairing had a pretty tough night. Um, but
Yeah.
you could point to plays, I think, of all 6 defensemen where they got beat, and sometimes the coverage from the forwards wasn't great either. So rather than single out a player for the specific bad thing, I'm just going to say this was a team fail, especially in the early going of the game, and it did get better as the game went along.
Barry and Kulak were out there for a lot of shots against, but we're not we didn't have them making major mistakes on any grade A shots against either of them.
No.
So they limited the damage to generally outside shots, Bruce. I will say that about it. I thought Kulak looked good.
No.
I thought he skated well and moved the puck well. I didn't think Barry was particularly sharp. You know, the D-man that I liked, and I hadn't watched him in the preseason because I was away on holidays, was Ryan Murray.
Mhm.
And I thought as the game went along, he and Bouchard really picked it up. They were slow at the start and they gave up some big chances at the start. But Murray really impressed me with his heady play, his passing. He made that one incredible between the legs
Nice
deke,
move.
yeah, into the slot and got off a dangerous backhand shot.
After
And
Holloway set him up on that play, right? That
that
was
was a nice
Holloway's
play
best
by,
moment. Yeah.
it surely was. So Ryan Murray really impressed me in that game, and Cody Ceci I thought was really solid throughout. But yeah, there was no shortage of sequences of pain in that first period, Bruce. It was a tough period to watch. The Oilers were asleep for a lot of it. My bad thing came right at the end of that first period. The Oilers were already down 2-0, and Darnell Nurse, who had had not a great first period himself, decided right at the end of the period to run a guy, Kyle Burrows, I think is his name, and took a penalty. And it just struck me that it was a completely unnecessary penalty taken out of frustration and terrible timing. And the Canucks scored on the power play to make it 3-0, to make it all worse at the start of the second period. So just to end off a really rancid first period from the Oilers, he took a really rancid penalty, a bad decision. He's a team leader. He can't let his temper get the best of him. I understand you want to, pump up your team with the big hit. Well, make it a legal hit, because you can't take a penalty. You really can't. And the Oilers were lucky to win that game after that third Vancouver goal went in, frankly. And that was on Nurse. So
Kane mashed the guy first in the corner, and then Darnell came in right after him, and it was a clean check except for the puck was gone, and the ref had no choice, I think, but to call that
yeah,
one. Darnell didn't like the call, but the funny thing is that Anthony Stewart on the Sportsnet broadcast, he singled out that play as being a turning point for the Oilers, as being said they needed something to wake him up, and they needed someone to show a little bit of pissed offness, I guess, at how the first period had gone, a little bit of aggressiveness, and started to take the initiative. And I would find a few other plays maybe before that one, but I just found Stewart's take on it refreshingly different. Let's put it that way from what's
well, he's
typically said. But
he's played pro hockey. I mean, maybe he knows something we don't know, Bruce. So, we can't rule that out. So I'm not going to rule that out. But I didn't like it. I thought it was,
mhm.
and I generally I understand what he's saying in a general sense. Like sometimes they're super aggressive play, but against such a non-essential player in a right at the end of the first period, I don't know. The timing of it just seemed really off, and I didn't like it. So
Yeah, well, Nurse bounced back with a goal and assist.
yeah,
Beautiful goal where his defensive play led to him joining the rush and slamming it home. That was a big turning point, and he was involved
sure
on
it
both
was.
ends of that play. And a nice, uh, cool play under pressure on the empty netter to
Yeah,
control the puck and chip it up ahead. So that was I thought a pretty good night for him overall. Played 26 minutes with 6 shot attempts, 2 hits, 2 giveaways, 4 block shots. But he was very involved in this game, and he had some good moments and a couple of high-profile, not so good moments. But that's Darnell's game, and it's always been his game. Like if you're waiting for someone to go out there and play the Chris Pronger perfect game, where it's just nothing bad happens, that's not him. But he's a proactive player, and he makes stuff happen.
I
He did
docked him
some of
a
that
full
tonight.
I docked him a full grade for the penalty, but then I gave
Hmm.
it right back on the goal. I mean, and
Right. Oh
I
yeah.
gave him an overall. I gave him a 7, so I thought he
Hmm.
had a good game. All right, are we on our numbers here?
Uh, well, that was, oh yeah, that was your bad thing, wasn't it? Okay.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, you go first with numbers. I had one. Now I have to remember what it was.
Okay, my number is 8. Evander Kane led the Edmonton Oilers with 8 hits.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if one of these was a hit or not, if they counted this, but this is what I think was the actual turning point in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on the power play. It's let me just go here to our game grades. Bruce and I, of course, every year record grade A shots on net, and we break down which players are involved in creating them for the Oilers and which players make mistakes. We do video review as the game's going on, and we have this running count every game if you're interested in that kind of thing, which we put up. We put up the document with our game grades. So this is the first power play goal. That goal is at 15:48 of the second period. So early 4 minutes into the second period. And Kane is coming out of the corner, and there's a puck battle, and he gets his stick kind of Shanghai. What does he do? What's the word?
Clothesline.
Clotheslines him. Yeah, clotheslines him to the ground, to the ice, and it's a dirty play. It's a dirty play. It should have been a penalty. But as an Oiler fan, I mean, I can't help but love it because he got away with it. And it really was a turning point. I mean, Hughes was down on the ice, and the Oilers were passing it around, and they put it in the net. And that's the 3-1 goal.
They were already
And
on the power play. Vancouver had a major beef there.
yeah, they really did. And it was a dirty play, and I'm not going to, but it's the kind of thing Kane does. He's that kind of player that you like when he's on your team and hate when he's on the opposition team, because he does those borderline or over the line plays. Sometimes gets away with them when the refs don't see them. And it can have a big impact on the game. He's a tough guy and a confident guy, and that was a huge play in the game. So his other 8 hits, I don't think that was probably a hit, but his other, I don't know if many were memorable, but he is hitting people. He's always physical. He's intimidating to the other team. He really is a huge addition to the Edmonton Oilers, and I don't think Ken Holland has gotten enough credit actually for bringing that player in. Could be a turning point in the franchise, Bruce. They got deeper in the playoffs than they've been in a long time, partly because of Kane's acquisition. And he's coming up big here in the first game. So on a new 4-year contract, and good game to start it all off.
Yeah, I wasn't totally thrilled with Kane's game tonight. I thought he was a little bit clumsy out there, frankly. He did take a penalty for goalie interference with 4 minutes left. That was the 1-goal lead, 200 feet from your net. You sure don't like to see that.
Did you think that was a penalty, though? I didn't. I thought that was really cheap, and I'm not complaining because
marginal.
I think it was like
marginal.
payback in a way. So I'm not going to complain about it, but I didn't think it was a penalty because he was going for the net, going for the goal. I'll give you that, Bruce. He didn't look great the whole game. Like I thought he started slow like the rest of the team, but he did get into it, I thought, physically in that, and made that play. What is your number?
Okay, well, I'm going to go with the number 25, which is the number of face-offs taken by the Oilers' most active guy in the face-off circle, Leon. Wait a minute, not Leon. Ryan Nugent Hopkins took 25 face-offs in this game, and he won 13 and lost 12.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing that he was. I mean, they had Draisaitl and McDavid playing together for a chunk of time, and of course Nugent Hopkins as the number 1 penalty killer. He would have taken a few face-offs at the start of the penalty
PK.
kill.
Yeah.
But he
Many.
was, on the night he was 7 of 14 in the defensive zone and 3 of 6 in the offensive zone. So just breaking even, sawing off. So not great on the face-off circle, but he didn't get crushed, and which is what we've sometimes come to expect from this player. He's never been real solid in the circle. And I'm wondering if this is just a one-off or if this is something where Jay Woodcroft's going to task him with doing more face-offs, and it'll be interesting to track to see if his numbers go way up in that department, because he's been a guy they've tried to shelter on the dot a little bit over the years. Well, he certainly wasn't sheltered tonight with 14 D-zone draws and 25 overall and holding his own. So Just a kind of a number that jumped off the page at me. If it was Leon that had done that, you'd say just another night at the office. Well, Leon was 10-8, and that's a lot of work on the face-off dot, but still quite a number of face-offs fewer than RNH, who was the Oilers' heavy lifter in that category in this game.
He got his face-off percentage, Bruce. So when he broke in as a rookie, he was at 37.5% in his rookie season. And he gradually kind of worked it up, and he got it to 50.7% one year. He didn't take nearly as many face-offs that year. That's 29-20. That's when he was on the dynamite line and wasn't taking as many face-offs. That earlier in the year, he had been a center, and then he moved to the wing with Draisaitl and Yamamoto. Last year, 2021, he was at 45.6, and then last year he just cratered again to 40.7. So he got it up to 50.7 and then cratered. So we'll see. That'd be fantastic if he can saw it off on the face-off on the dot. Like it's one more tool in his toolkit that could be effective. He's got lots of tools in that toolkit, and he's a good player. He sure was part of that great tabletop hockey goal in the power play, and I thought he and Hyman did a really good job on the PK, I thought, as well.
531 on the PK, which was the most of any Oilers forward. Only the Nurse CC pairing.
I think Hyman might have got a little bit. I think Hyman got a little bit more than him, Bruce.
520 for Hyman, 531 for Nuge is what I'm reading here. But anyway.
Oh, you got it.
And he was in the box for one of them too. So he was getting lots of opportunity on the PK at RNH, and that's his contributions to special teams are a big part of his value, and also his ability, or at least their willingness to rely on him to move up the lineup on nights like tonight where they basically combine Draisaitl and McDavid. Now all of a sudden he's on the second line, and when you're playing against a team that's got high end top six, then you're counting on him to play some tough minutes, and tonight he did, and didn't score, but he was involved in that power play goal as sort of the third assist, and he held his own in the game, and I thought he put in a good battle in this game. So
yeah, he did. Well, good start to the season.
Comeback,
yeah. So next game Saturday night. Yeah, you're going to be doing
only against the Flames. Home game against the Flames all year.
So big game.
It's like last year. They started off. They beat Vancouver in the first game. They beat Calgary in the second game, and they were off and running. So hopefully we can have a repeat of that. Oh, just one more thing on the face-offs, on the numbers. 71 face-offs in this game, which is a lot. But 34 in Oilers zone and only 16 in Vancouver. So the territorial play was strongly on Vancouver's side, and I think a little bit of that was Jack Campbell's willingness to cover the puck and get the draw, whereas Mike Smith, for instance, he would never see such a high number of D-zone face-offs because he'd like to keep the puck moving whenever he could. So
Schmitty, what a player. Bruce, I want to do a special shout out tonight to all the Cult of Hockey fans who are overseas listening. It's fascinating, and often when people are on holidays they're listening in, so we'll get people from Australia living there on holidays or in Europe sending me, like, I'm on a train in Europe listening to the Cult of Hockey podcast, and it's kind of thrilling actually that people do that, and they want to find out the latest Oilers news wherever they are around the world. So we really appreciate you guys and girls listening in to the podcast from all over. And I want to specifically, 5 of my best friends are overseas right now. Rock, Stewie, Dan, and Ian are in Israel right now on a holiday, and my friend Phil is in Australia. So I'm thinking maybe they're going to be listening to this podcast because they're all big-time Oilers fans. And hope you guys are having fun wherever you are. Bruce, thanks for talking tonight.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And I forgot the sign off.
In the meantime.
And in the meantime, and in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast. That's the old Ed Whalen line from Stampede Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks again, Bruce.